Hello, it's Tom Donald from the London Contemporary School of Piano. Today we're going to cook up a storm on this piano. We're going to compose some music in the key of F minor. Today what I really want to show you to do, I want to really illustrate to you how simple it can be to compose your own music on the piano. I want to empower you to be creative and create simple but effective musical ideas. It's possible to do. And I really want to help you turn this piano into your little mini kitchen where you can produce your own ideas and create your own compositions. And by the way, if you're a fan of our work at the London Contemporary School of Piano, you should head on over to our website, contemporaryschoolofpiano.com, and ask for our free resources kit, which accompany many of these YouTube videos. And you can also inquire about some of our programs, courses and trainings, such as the Complete Musician program and our Groove course. So let's get started in the key of F minor. Why have I chosen a minor key? Well, I think minor keys, they have that lovely natural cinematic quality to it, and you can really compose some very moving, effective music in a minor key. And we're going to use a particular type of minor scale that has this quality, a natural minor scale. So if I play you an F minor, natural minor scale, I get these notes. That contrasts the other type of minor scale that we often hear, the classical, more classical sounding harmonic minor, which is this. We often hear composers using mixtures of both of those scales in the music. Take a great example by Mozart. That's natural minor. And that's harmonic minor. But today we're going to focus just on that natural minor. And it has a more gentle sound, a less dissonant sound than the harmonic minor. And the natural minor derives from all of the notes from its relative major, which in this case is the third note of the minor scale, A flat major. So it's exactly the same notes as an F minor scale, a natural minor scale, starting on an A flat. It's an A flat major. It's a bit like looking at a tree on top of a mountain from a different angle. And this is from the major angle, and this is from the minor angle. And it's exactly the same notes. If you struggle to understand that, you could explore that on the white keys. This is C major, and this is A natural minor. It's the same thing. It's like an angle on top of the major scale, or that's derived from the major scale. So back to this F minor. And I'm just sitting there, just listening to the notes here before I come up with any composition ideas. I really have very little idea as to what I'm going to compose at this point. I just know it's going to be in the key of F minor. So let me start with 4 chords. So now I have to identify some chords that fit with this scale. And the best place to start is really with the elements of the scale. What notes are in this scale that fit particular chords? Well, obviously F minor is going to work, and that's our first place to start, really. What other chords would fit an F minor scale? Well, an A flat major chord fits as well. A B flat minor chord fits. You can sit there and just experiment for a while, finding chords derived from the scale. A C minor fits, and a D flat major fits, and an E flat major fits. But I'm not looking for all of the chords that fit with an F minor scale. I want to create some chords that will make an impact to start my composition. And to make an impact, I don't want to have too many chords. So I'm just going to start with 4 chords. It's a trusty number. With 4 chords, I really can't go wrong. There's a certain structure to looping 4 chords around that will give my composition a really good start. So I'm going to start on the home key F minor. And when I decide what chord pattern to use, I really want to listen to my bass in my left hand, because in a way, the bass is where the chord comes from. So I feel like this bass line, I want it to go down. So I might go down to a D flat. And sometimes this is a good way to compose, is just write the bass line first. Don't even think about the chords. So maybe I'll write a bass line first here. F, D flat, E flat, C. And when I composed that bass line, I just was reacting to the sound of the piano and thinking, do I want to go up? Do I want to go down? These sort of simple musical questions, up and down, back up, back down. So I quite like those combinations of notes. So I've got my F minor. Let's create some chords out of that bass line. F minor, D flat major, E flat major, and this is going to be a C minor because I'm playing in the natural minor here. If it was in the harmonic minor, it'd be a C major chord. You can hear it sounds more sort of pushy and dissonant if I use a C major chord. But I don't want that. I want something just a little less stated, a bit more understated, you could say. So I'm going to make that last chord a C minor. And I quite like that combination of chords. It's very pleasing. It really leaves a little bit of the imagination. Like, what could I do with that? Now, I'm just chording it out for now. I'm not really doing anything melodic with it or arranging it. I'm sort of taking that first step of deciding my chord progression. That's the first thing you want to do, is decide on that chord progression and see where that takes you. Decide on that bass line that takes you to the chord progression. And so you can work out the bass first. You could work out the key first, then the bass line, and then what chords derive from it. See, all of these little steps you can take to start building a composition and start building your recipe together. And if you are building anything, put something in the comments section. Say, I'm using these chords. I wonder how I can develop them. It's great to have conversations, with your fellow colleagues who are learning piano. Trust me, we look at our comment section and we have some lovely people. We're not like the rest of YouTube. We've got lovely people who are like saying, oh, I'm trying this on the piano. And we're a bit of a community. We like to support piano students around the world. So yeah, if you've got a chord progression in your mind, tell us about it. So we've got these 4 chords. This F minor, D flat, E flat, C minor. So I'm going to develop that more. I need to arrange it now. I don't just want it to be ploddy chords in the right hand and a bass in the left hand. I want to do something a bit more with it. So I might start developing this with just the bass line. You'd be surprised how you don't need to overstate the chord here. You can just have that bass line. It sort of tells us, it hints a bit of information about the chord anyway. So that gives me room in the right hand to create some melody using my F minor scale. I might go up an octave. I think that was a bit too low. I want this to be sort of more in the middle of the piano, not too bassy. Now I'm going to just experiment with the first 5 notes of the F minor scale and create some melodic ideas. Now here I'm using improvisation to compose. So this very much comes down to individual preference. So what sort of melody would you like? Would you like your melody to have a symmetry to it? It's more like this. 1 phrase and then a break. Starting at the same time as the bass in the left hand. Short little phrases. Or do you want it to be a little less symmetrical, where with the right hand starting off the beat from the left hand, like this? A little faster riffs in the right hand, that sort of thing. With ornaments, where you squeeze notes together. And the thing is, when you're composing, it doesn't have to be the same thing every time. You're experimenting, you're building your own musical ideas. It doesn't have to be an exact thing. You don't have to get out a quilted pen and write everything down that you're doing. Just write down the bass line. Just write down the bullet points of the composition. I think a lot of people get put off composing music because they think they have to write everything down. You don't really need to write everything down. Just write down your basic ideas, your bullet points, so you can remember it. And then go back to it and chip away at it, add more to it. So we've got a little bit of melodic writing now against this left hand. Now, to develop this further, I'm going to think of some things to do with the left hand to imply the chord just a little bit more. And I don't have to play the full chord in the left hand. I find that it can be just a bit ploddy to do that, having the full chord in the bass. It's almost a bit predictable. So I'm going to just string in another note as an interval with the bass. And now I might actually consider taking the left hand down an octave. I'll do it in this octave for now, and I'll assess how it sounds. But I might start with a minor third in the left hand. I'm playing just a slice of the chord. And then do the same thing on the D flat. I'm playing a fifth above the D flat. It's quite nice because I'm keeping that A flat as the same note. So now I'm playing an F minor as a third, the D flat major as a fifth, the E flat major as a third, the C minor as a fifth. So I get a really nice smooth voice in there by alternating my thirds and my fifth intervals in the left hand. Now I'll add the melody with that. I added another fifth there. And I don't just have to use thirds and fifths in my palette of left-hand chord strings. That's the name of this technique, is chord strings or intervals. I'm not playing the full chord, I'm just playing an interval from the bass note to imply the chord. So I can use thirds, and I can use fifths, but I can also use sevenths. Turning some of these chords into minor sevenths is quite nice. So, and remember, a minor seventh is a full tone down from the octave. It's not a semitone down from the octave like that. You'll notice if you do that, it won't quite sound right. If I'm playing a major 7 chord, however, like a D flat major 7, that is a semitone down from the octave. Just use your ear. Don't get too caught up in the theory. Theory has to be learnt by the ear. It has to be learnt by the body. You have to hear and feel the sounds. If it sounds right to you, you're doing something good. You're doing something that feels right and feels good. Intuition is important. It needs to be trained. And you can't always train intuition through just pure logic. You sort of have to feel out the sound a little bit. So when you're composing, the theory is there to help us and assist us explain things, but often we've got to put the ear first and see if it's the sound that we're exploring or targeting to get. So let's start from these left-hand chord strings. I'm going to play around now with fifth intervals, third intervals, and seventh intervals and see what it does to these 4 chords. I quite like that sequence. I'm going fifth to seventh, and it's really smooth. I just end up repeating the same note there. Fifth to seventh. You get these really delicious sounds. And this makes a really good improvisation exercise as well. Just getting 2 notes and looping it around, that's a really nice technique as well. Three notes. Just creates that rhythmic momentum. So we're just setting ourselves up here. Looping 2 notes from the scale in the right hand. One thing I'm not doing in the right hand, I'm not just always playing the key note, the F, because we're in F minor, we sort of already know that. So our right hand melody doesn't have to veer towards the first note. I think a lot of people, when they compose music or improvise music, they tell themselves, I'm in F minor, must obey F minor, and they're just thinking F, F, and then we're hearing too many Fs. But that's the key note. That's sort of the gravity note. So we don't need to overstate that note of gravity. We can sort of move away from that. So it's quite beautiful to start on the second note of the scale, the third note. I mean, that's got a really beautiful sound to it, doesn't it? The fourth note, the fifth note, and the sixth note. You know, so you can hear the scale build up. So you can really explore those sounds of each degree note in the scale against these 4 chords we've turned into intervals. And you want to try this with your own chord progressions. Just get a pen and paper out and write out a chord progression or a bass line, figure out what you'd like those chords to be, and then put a melody over the top of that. And I've just started really simple there, just with 4 chords. And if this is the sort of thing you want to do more of with your music, you want to understand more about music, you want to understand more about how music works and how you want to relate with music, you should definitely consider our Complete Musician program, which is one of the most comprehensive courses and resources out there for all things piano. It doesn't matter what level you're at as well. This course is accumulation of my lifelong research in music education, and you can find out more of it here on the website or at the link, or just by visiting us at contemporaryschoolofpiano.com. Now onto this composition. I've got much more to talk about with this because I want to try some other things in the left hand too. And I can try putting some patterns in the left hand, and there are numerous patterns available for me to use. I could use just a very basic pattern that used in a lot of songs where you circle between the fifth and the octave. Now because that right hand is, I mean, I could take the left hand down an octave, but I had to take that right hand up an octave because the left hand's a bit higher here. And that works quite nicely, but I could go down an octave and try the same thing. I get a bit more depth and bass there. So that's got a bit more momentum now. I've added that octave in the fifth. And it doesn't just have to be the octave in fifth. After a while, that can even become a little bit, lack a bit of variation. And this is really subjective. You know, people are often debating whether they like contemporary composers like Almaldi, who's always using octaves and fifths in his music. Some people go, that's a bit boring and vanilla for me. So it's very subjective. And I think that's the great thing about composition, is that it is your moment to allow your musical opinions to actually shine through your music. So if I think just putting octaves and fifths in that rhythm in the left hand is a bit dull after a while, I can experiment with some different patterns and shapes, like putting ninths to tenths. It's a bit more of a stretch. Or I could make more dense harmonies in the left hand. If you get this F minor, for instance, I might put a suspended second on it, or a suspended fourth on it. Just putting seconds on it. That's really changed the rhythm of the music though. So now I want to think a little bit about the narrative of the music, the way the music builds up. So I might start with my strings in the left hand here and then build up to the octave and the fifth just for a bit more rhythm. So let's start with this. This stage I'm still improvising the melody. At the moment I'm just focusing on that structure, that outline in the music. Okay, Okay, now I'm going to put some rhythm here. So what did I do there? Things started to happen there for me because I'd set the composition up to grow. And one thing I noticed was when that rhythm came in, I felt that was the time for the melody to show up. So what's the melody? Well, one of the best ways you can find a good melody in music is know your scale, but a melody is really a musical rhythm cell. It's a rhythm. And in the case, the melody that I played there was this rhythm. Da 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 da. It was that rhythm. Ba 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 ba. And that was the earworm out of that, was the rhythm. It wasn't actually the notes. Providing I used notes in the F minor scale, and it's all fitting that same value of the scale, I could actually use whatever notes I pleased in that scale to create the melody. You could do it starting on this note, or on this note. I can really mix it around. And that became the hook in a way when I got to here. I did that for a couple of times, and then I thought, well, now we need to finish it off, give it a cadence. Cadence is a musical term for an end of a phrase. And so I slightly altered the chord pattern, but I used generally all the chords we've already been using, but just in a slightly different order to end it. So I continued doing this. Then, instead of going back to the F minor, I went to a D flat, then the E flat, and then the F minor. However, just going back to the F minor was perhaps a bit predictable. This is very subjective, by the way. You could do this either way, and it's totally fine. It's what do you prefer? You can put in the comments which one you prefer. Do you prefer I finish on the F minor, which is what is probably the more predictable ending? But instead, I decided to turn that F minor into an F major. And it was totally off the cuff. It just my instincts were telling me, I've heard enough F minor now. Let's sweeten it up a little bit. I went to F major. And it just created that little bit of that sense of surprise. And so then this brings us to another step in our composing, is altering chords. Turning what's major into minor and what's minor into major. And you can experiment with that. And so one chord that might be quite nice to also do that with would be a B flat minor. That also, this B flat minor chord fits with the F minor scale. So that's a nice chord, it works. But maybe I could open things up by turning that B flat minor into a B flat major. And this would make a really good middle section. Just looping around the B flat major to the F minor. And back to that D flat major. E flat major. So now we have a middle section. I've just altered one chord from the scale. I've got what would normally be a B flat minor, I've turned it into a B flat major. So mixture, mixing things up a little bit, just brightens up that sound of the minor key. So I'm going to try and finish this whole composition right now. There'll be quite a bit of improvisation because It's really just seeds of an idea. But this just gives you an idea of how we can structure a piece of music. So I've got the first section where it's just the chord strings and the bass line. The right hand's very floaty and improvisation-like. Then I play that little rhythm, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. That's just the rhythm I came up with right now. So that's a great way to create a melodic hook, is a repetitive rhythm pattern, which I will use and leverage the scale with. I will create more rhythm in the left hand. And then I'm going to go to this middle section where I play the B flat major and the F minor, and then I've got to end it somehow. And really the best way to end any piece of music is to do what you've already done. You go back and bring something back for the audience. So we might end the same place I started. However, I'm going to try and be a little more clever here. And this is really what is in a lot of great composition, is you always go back and state what you've previously done, and you give it to the audience again, a repetition, but you do it slightly differently. So I'm going to have to think of something slightly different to do with this chord progression, which we've heard many times now, to finish the piece. Wish me luck. And let's go from the very beginning of this F minor piece of music. Remember, if you're interested in our work and you'd like to visit our website, contemporaryschoolofpiano.com, to claim your free resources kit, which accompanies all of these YouTube videos, head on over to our site today and find out more about how you can develop your own musical skills. At the London Contemporary School of Piano, we very much believe that playing piano is not just about obeying blindly a musical score in front of you, without any context of the music. We really encourage all of our students, no matter what their age or ability is, to explore the piano and to think more like a musician and have more of a creative interface with the piano. And I hope today, by no means this is a perfect composition. I'm not trying to create a perfect composition. I'm trying to show you some DIY music so you can sit down and you can try your own things with the piano. I hope you've enjoyed today, and I look forward to speaking with you soon. Thank you very much.